We're going to spend some time talking about the Indianapolis Colts today. We'll also talk about the Pacers. Pacers, they got a win last night. I don't like it. We don't like Pacers wins. We want Pacers to lose this year so they can win next year. They no longer have the worst record in the NBA. That's meaningless as long as they're in the bottom three. But that they continue to stack losses is critical for them being better next year. I don't want them to tank. I just don't want them to win. Tanking, you lose on purpose. Losing, you lose because you compete. You're just not good enough. Last night, they were good enough against the Chicago Bulls. Does that differentiation make any sense whatsoever? I'm sorry I'm a little late this morning. I was watching the Australian Open, and I thought that the Rybakina and Pegula match was going to end several times. I thought, okay, then I can say the Australian women's finals is set. It's going to be Sabalenka against Rybakina. But you know what? It just keeps going on and on and on and on. And Pegula will not let go in that second set. So she lost the first, will not lose the second. She's doing everything she can not to lose. It's awesome. I love live sports in the morning. And the Australian Open, it's the least of the four majors. But you know what? What else we got on a Thursday morning in central Indiana? You know what I mean? We're going to talk, when we talk about the Colts, we're going to talk about the self-scout and what they're choosing to do in a variety of positions, the most interesting of which I think is the running back position, because on the surface it's the most obvious, but I don't think that it's the most obvious. I think that it's a place because Jonathan Taylor is entering the final year of his contract at $15 million. I think that it becomes very, very interesting to see what the Indianapolis Colts are going to do. How impatient are they going to be with 8-9, 8-9, right? And prior to that, 9-8, then 4-12-1, then another 9-8. How impatient are they going to be? The Bills, they do nothing but go to the playoffs. They fired their coach, fired Sean McDermott. The Steelers, they won their division. They fired Mike Tomlin. John Harbaugh is a guy who goes to the playoffs as the coach, or did, as the coach of the Ravens, like it was his job. And all of a sudden, when he falls short, it's bye-bye to John Harbaugh. I don't understand it. Like those franchises have been really patient. Now they're impatient. The Colts, they were really impatient in 2022, and now they are patient in the extreme. What the hell's going on here, right? Should Eli Manning get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame? People act like he's been slighted by not receiving the amount of votes necessary to get into the Hall of Fame. There's no slight for for Eli Manning. Eli Manning doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. What the hell is the matter with people? Yeah, he won the 2 Super Bowls, but you know what? You look at the way he played throughout a career, that's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think it's a ridiculous question, to tell you the truth. NBA deadline, trade deadline coming up a week from today. What are the Pacers going to do? They're going to hang on to Benedict Mathurin, or are they going to move him for future considerations that allow them to be better next year without getting better this year? You don't want to improve too much this year because it could screw up your hopes to get a guy like A.J. DeBonsa or Peterson or Boozer. You got guys, lots of guys. You don't want to fall to 7th in this draft. Stay in the top 3 or in the bottom 3 so you can stay in the top 5 and hopefully top 3. Does that make any sense? It gets very complicated the way this NBA draft business works. Butler losers last night to St. John's. You're not a loser because you're watching Breakfast with Kent for Thursday, January 29th, 2026. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry, Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist in the world. So, call him. Make an appointment today. I've gone to him for the last 33 years. I'm never going to another dentist. 317-849-2933. You got a hole in your mouth? He's got a hole in his schedule. Call Dr. Mike O'Neill today. Become a member today. We're going to have more stuff for members. Adding more stuff all the time for members. We got the Saturday chat, the Coffee with Kent, Saturday mornings, 9 o'clock. Like clockwork, we talk about sports, and it's very convivial. It's you and me chatting about sports, and it's a lot of fun. So become a member today. When you become a subscriber, which is free, no cost to become a subscriber, all you have to do is hit that button. And what do you get? You become eligible to win a prize. We are about 330 subscribers away from, I think that's right. I don't really keep too great a track. From 25,000, and when we hit 25,000, boom! Huge prize. Don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be exciting. And by hitting that subscribe button, that join button, man, do you have an opportunity to win a prize? That's how you become eligible. The way you enter for the next prize, you enter by making the phrase that pays as a comment. And the phrase that pays right now is "Go Hoosiers," because Indiana's riding high with the 2-game winning streak, headed out to SoCal to take on UCLA and USC. I watched USC play last night against Iowa. Man, can they be bad for a stretch, and can they be good for a stretch? Iowa wins by a point. I thought they had that game salted away, and all of a sudden, the overt athleticism of USC was brought to bear, and they came storming back. They couldn't get over the hump, but that's life in a big city. Make sure and smash that like button. And if you want to make a donation, no big whoop. But please include a comment or a question that elevates the level of discourse on the channel. Can you? By the way, I'm going to the Indy Ignite game tonight. Got hooked up with tickets by a really good guy who is kind of on the staff. And so we've got great seats right behind the bench, which means I guess we're going to be behind a bunch of tall women hoping to see stuff. But that, I don't think, is going to be an impediment to our good time. So really looking forward to that. And should be fun. Let's talk about sports, shall we? I just love sports. If you got a scoreboard, if you're keeping score, I can watch. I can figure out the game well enough to understand what's happening and why teams win and why teams lose. So I'm looking forward to the Indy Ignite. Who doesn't understand volleyball, for God's sake? The Colts self-scout is basically over. Like, they figured stuff out. They've had about a month to figure out what that season was. Maybe they're at the tail end of it. And one of the questions that they're going to have to kind of wrangle with is how many popular players do they want to dispatch in the effort to get better? Because you can't stand pat and improve. That doesn't make sense. We've seen the Colts try that, where they try to retain everybody. Man, look, we like Zaire. Zaire's a good football player now. Okay, enough with that. He can't cover anybody. You can't cover me, for God's sake. What are we talking about? Yes, he makes plays on occasion. Good plays. And led the NFL in tackles. Not this past year. But that guy against the pass, that's a bit of a hindrance for the Colts and what they're trying to get done. Jonathan Taylor, though, I think is the most important and interesting question that is kind of noodling around Chris Ballard's head, Shane Steichen's head. He is a game-breaking running back. But over the course of the last 6 games, when teams sold out to stop him after Daniel Jones got hurt, there wasn't much there, was there? There weren't the breakaway runs. And so what do you have with Jonathan Taylor? Do you have a guy who's worth the $15 million? Do you have a guy who maybe is worth more to the future of the franchise as a trade asset instead of as a running back? Does Jonathan Taylor want to come back after next season, after the 2026 season? All of these questions have to be answered. I think that you can be 8-9 without Jonathan Taylor. I think it's more important that they keep Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman at a reduced cost than reduced for Michael Pittman, not reduced for Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is going to make money. Michael Pittman Jr. is not worth $29 million a year. Jonathan Taylor, I think you can get a running back who does what you need to do to move the sticks, and it's not going to cost you $15 million. I think it's a luxury that this team really can't afford, and that if you don't have a healthy Daniel Jones, it doesn't matter who's your running back, because they're going to put 8-9 guys in the box, and he ain't going to have any place to go because 5 or 6 can't block 9. That's just the way it is. They can't block 8. So Jonathan Taylor, while being a guy who ran for better than 1,500 yards, is not a guy who has put the Colts in the playoffs in any of the last 5 years. That's an important consideration. There is nobody on this team that is above suspicion as a reason that the Indianapolis Colts haven't gone to the playoffs the last 5 years. Nobody. Nobody who finished the season with this team is above question. And that includes Jonathan Taylor. I don't think they're going to move on from Jonathan Taylor because that would be a bold move. And I don't think that this is a bold team. I don't think that Chris Ballard is a bold general manager. I don't think to this point, Carly Ursay-Gordon is a bold owner. I think Shane Steichen's got some bold in him from a coaching perspective, but that doesn't have anything really to do with Jonathan Taylor and whether he's going to be retained. I think you might be able to get more. I think you got to get bold. I think you have to initiate roster movement that is going to put this team in a different situation. Not necessarily better. You hope for better, but 8-9 every year, 8-9 or 9-8, this is not sustainable if you don't get off that treadmill. This treadmill can take you forever. It can take you, well, you never move on a treadmill. Treadmills don't take you anyplace. You're just there. 8-9, 8-9, 8-9, 8-9, 9-8, 9-8. Please. Does Ballard still have his shimmer juju? Oh, man. Yes. Yeah, Ballard. Well, that you know, right? The edges, you got to get that fixed. Latu is part of the fix. Pay is not part of the fix. Thomas, here we go, says we need to look at another wide receiver. Pitt haters to say he needs to go, need faster. Well, he can't get open, and that's a problem. That's trouble. Is that solely on JT, though? I don't think so. I think that's a combination of JT, the offensive line, and complete lack of inventiveness and creativity in the offensive playbook. Shane Steichen has flaws. Putting together a creative offensive playbook is not among them. That dude will get creative. There's no question about that. Handing the ball to Jonathan Taylor he didn't get stupid all of a sudden giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor, or he didn't lack the creativity he had in the front end of the season when Jonathan Taylor was the odds-on favorite to be the NFL MVP. You know what I mean? Like, guys, physically, they'll break down during a season, but coaches don't mentally break down during a season. Jonathan Taylor, his ability to run the football and break runs, not in question, right? But Jonathan Taylor's ability while breaking runs is like when he went off, right, and ran for 1,800 yards. Colts didn't make the playoffs. How important is it to have a running back who can take it to the house from your own 40 if it doesn't get you to the playoffs? Like, teams that win, it's not because they have multiple splash plays always. A lot of it has to do with ability to move the sticks, get yourself in the red zone, and then be really good in the red zone. That has to do with creativity, but the Colts were really good in the red zone early in the season. Jonathan Taylor was a part of that. Like, he had, early on, he was averaging better than a touchdown per game, right? If you want bold, that translates to firing Ballard and finding a bold GM. That, Toby, you and I have some agreement on. They seemed critical of Gonsalves at right guard. Wonder if they try to upgrade there and have Travis and Gonsalves battle at right tackle. They might. But you know what? You're going to have a hole in an offensive line. You're not going to put together an offensive line that's got 5 studs. It's impossible. In the salary cap era, it's just impossible. A process of elimination, if play calls are creative enough, then it's either the O-line or JT or a combination of both. What I'm saying Jonathan Taylor is a top 5 running back in the NFL. But a top 5 running back in the NFL has not gotten you into the playoffs for the last 5 years. So, is that $15 million well spent? That's kind of the question. The return on investment not in yards, not necessarily in touchdowns for Taylor, but in wins. Like, are we allocating too much money toward this one guy in order to win 8 games, right? Don't think Pittman's fast enough with these defenses we play. No, he can't get open. So that's problematic. And he's hurt. Like, and as far as Gonsalves, listen, here's the thing with Matt Gonsalves. Matt Gonsalves played basically everywhere the year before, but center and right guard. And then this year, they say, okay, you're going to be the starting right guard. It didn't play right guard in college. I think he's still learning the position. I would trust Tony Sperano. If Sperano says he's got the stuff, we can get him there, you keep Gonsalves right there. If Sperano says, you know what, he's more suited to being a tackle, maybe we move Travis inside. I don't know what they're thinking, but I think Gonsalves winds up starting on that offensive line next year because they got too many holes. You can't fill them all through the draft, right? And a guard, like, you know what I mean? Exactly. Tired of that 4 to 6 range where the top 3 picks this year will be studs. Give us one of those. 100%. If you decided to trade Taylor, what kind of draft pick can you get for him? That's a great question. A third, second, maybe? Like for Falk back in the day, at a similar point in their careers. So Falk had just played his 5th season. Taylor just played his 6th. Falk was sent to the Rams, and he got a 2nd and a 5th back. If you could get a 2nd and a 5th back, I'd think about moving him and getting that $15 million off your books. I don't think it'd be popular, but being popular, you know what I mean? Let's talk about the Pacers. They got the win last night, 113-110 over the Bulls. Johnny Furphy with 2 free throws late to kind of seal it, and then the Bulls turned it over. Those were Furphy's only 2 points. Siakam last night with 20. Andrew Nembhard, nice game, 18, 6, and 9 last night. Mathurin, 15 and 8. They've got the Hawks at Cambridge Fieldhouse Saturday night at 7 o'clock. So what do they do with Benedict Mathurin? The NBA draft deadline is a week from today. Do you move Mathurin and get a piece that's going to help you be better in 26-27? Because it doesn't matter if you're better in 25-26. Like the rest of this season's over. You got, 34 games left? What the hell's the difference? You know, it's not important. You don't want to win games at this point. So let's not get better now. So if you trade Mathurin, let's say to the Jazz, which really doesn't make any sense, as was explained to me by Alex Golden, for Walker Kessler. Okay. You know, that's kind of an interesting move because that's a center that you need. That guy can go out and get rebounds, and he's out for the season. He's done for this year, but he's going to be back next year. That makes him a piece of kind of a puzzle that works in a trade. So Mathurin goes to the Jazz and makes the Jazz immediately better. The Pacers become immediately worse, and they acquire a piece of the puzzle that makes them better next year, but does not enhance them this year. That's kind of interesting to me. We'll see what happens. But you got to get DeBonsa, Peterson, or Boozer. You've got to be in the top 3 of this draft. So you got to be in the bottom 3 of the standings. If they can do that, they really got a shot. Eli Manning, should he be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? There's still all kinds of rancor with fans about Bill Belichick being passed over. Who cares? We out of our minds? This is where you plant your flag. You know, what do we care? I don't care whether he ever goes to the Hall of Fame. What the hell difference does that make? He was a coach. Do you know what? Let's talk about him a little bit. And we did that yesterday a bit. Bill Belichick, not a good record without Tom Brady. Really good record with Tom Brady. Is there something to that? I think that there is. Absolutely something to that. And that's not to crap on Belichick, having a great franchise quarterback is important. Lots of coaches in the Hall. Would Tony Dungy be in the Hall of Fame if he hadn't coached the Colts when Peyton Manning was the quarterback? Legit question. Eli Manning ranks 11th career in attempts, completions, passing yards, and passing TDs. He's 11th in all of those things. That's kind of interesting. In a pass-happy NFL era. 2 Super Bowl wins. That's important. We know. Regular season 117 and 117. Perfect 500 as a starting quarterback. Career passer rating of 84.1. That's 67th in NFL history. Again, during a pass-happy era where lots of guys are putting up seasons of over 100. Eli Manning never had a season with a passer rating over 100. Where has he led the NFL? Did he ever lead in passing yards? No. Touchdowns? No. Passer rating? No. QBR? No. Attempts? No. Completions? No. Interceptions? 3 times. Why would you put Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame other than his fame? Like, we know him because he's in commercials and because he's Peyton's brother. That's reason to put him in a Hall of Fame? I don't think so. He made 4 Pro Bowls at a time when a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders is going to the Pro Bowl games. He only made it 4 times. That's ridiculous. Butler, 92-70 losers last night at St. John's. I hate losing to Rick Pitino. Absolutely hate it. But what are you going to do? Indy Ignite tonight against Dallas, I believe. It's a pink out. And I'm looking forward to going. I've never been to an Indy Ignite volleyball match. That'll be a lot of fun. I like volleyball. Volleyball is a quick game. You know, it's kind of bump, set, whap. I like it. Brian Wethington celebrating a birthday. Eric Hatfield, Christy Unton celebrating a birthday. Scott Smith, the great Mark Allen celebrating a birthday. The great Bob Valvano celebrating a birthday. The great Chris Denary celebrating a birthday. It's an off day this year, which is nice for him. Kim Hicks celebrating a birthday, and he's at home. I'll bet that doesn't happen very often. Kim Hicks Largan, happy birthday, and Tim Goldsmith, happy birthday. If today's your birthday, you celebrate like hell. Watch the beer for the Ignite. I'll do that. What did Toby say that he's probably right about? Eli going to the Hall of Fame because of the Manning name, and like saying the Arch Manning should win the 26th Heisman and be the number 1 pick in the 27 draft. Fame means everything in our society, and it drives me crazy. I think it's ridiculous. You know, I think you ought to be measured by the quality of your work, not the name, the marquee value of your name. Colts won't trade JT with the offense we had last year, and both coach and GM on the hot seat. They'll go fix the D and take chance again with the O. And I agree with you. I think that that's what they will do. But I don't know whether that's the right move. You know, we thought that Napoleon was crazy. Well, I think this is not saying Napoleon isn't crazy. But we thought he was nuts to trade Marshall Faulk to the Rams for a 2 and a 5, right? But then they go out and they draft Edgerrin James, and we forgot all about Marshall Faulk, despite the fact that he went haywire for the Rams, but he became a different guy when he went to St. Louis. I don't know. Maybe it's the right thing to move Jonathan Taylor. Right thing for Jonathan, right thing for the Colts. It was the right thing for the Colts to move Marshall Faulk. Despite, and that doesn't, again, it's not Napoleon being determined sane or crazy based upon that one decision. So, I don't know if I said this, but you know what? If it's your birthday, celebrate like hell. If it's not your birthday, celebrate somebody else. Lift other people up. Be good to other people. We got a lot of cold out there, so be good to your neighbors. Make sure your neighbors are okay. You got an elderly neighbor, kind of knock on the door. Hey, you all right? Need something from the store? Lots of times, old people, they don't like going out because they are terrified of falling. Because they all know 5 different people who have fallen, broken a hip, and with a broken hip, everything went to hell in a handcart, and they passed away not long after. My birthday was on Tuesday, turned 52. Happy birthday, Toby. How do I not know that your birthday was Tuesday? You're not on the list. How'd that happen? We'll talk to you later today. Inside Indiana Sports Now. Can't wait to do that. Let's go. You know what? Toby, in his heart, he's in his 40s. Chronologically, that doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't make any difference at all. How do you live? What age group do you belong to based upon your quality of life and your attitude toward life and your energy for living life? That's what's important. That's what old people say.